This is going to be a really great, lively panel about why you would choose Phoenix for your business. Why are we thriving here? What I want to do really quickly, if I can, is to have each of our panelists just say a few, introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about who they are and what they do. And then we have a slew of questions that we're going to get to. So we're going to go ahead. Well, let's start with Panch.
Okay.
And you can explain why we call you that.
Yes, all good. So my name is Sethuraman Panchanathan. And by the way, we have a quiz at the end to spell my name. And you have some nice prizes. So that's why people call me Punch. And I'm the Executive Vice President at ASU. My responsibilities include research, entrepreneurship, innovation, economic development, strategic partnerships, and global development. From my academic home, I'm a professor of computer science and engineering. So delighted to be here. Thank you, Elena.
Thank you. David?
Hi, I'm Dave Allen. I'm a vice president at the University of Arizona. Not exactly a good football year, but we look for a pretty good basketball year this year. I am a vice president for a unit of the university called Tech Launch Arizona. It's basically the university's commercialization unit, which is involved with taking inventions from faculty in the laboratory, securing intellectual property, and finding a home for the technology. And in some cases, we create companies around that. We did 14 companies last year, startups. The other part of what I do is oversee the University Research Park. We have a 20-year-old mature research park and developing a new one a couple miles from campus.
I'm Dehi Park. I'm co-founder of Tuft & Needle. We're based here in Phoenix. Back in 2012, my friend and co-founder JT and I decided to start a business here in Phoenix. We were previously working in Silicon Valley at a software company. And we make mattresses. We're the #1 rated mattress on Amazon, #1 Best Buy on Consumer Reports. And we've been going on 5 years in business now. And happy to be here. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for being here today. The first question that I want to pose to all three of you, and we're going to make this as conversational as we can, but the name of this particular session is Thriving in the Silicon Desert. And I have a problem with the term Silicon Desert, and I'm just wondering if anybody else has that same thought that about labels, number one, and what should Arizona be called. It seems to me that the Silicon Desert puts us in the shadow of a little city in California, a little area in California, the Silicon Valley. So let's talk a little bit about labels and where you think Arizona should fit into that. Maybe what our name should be.
Yeah, so I would agree. Silicon anything is a bit of a me too, right? So we have Silicon Desert, we have others like Silicon Hills, Silicon Mountain, whatever. So there's that. So I think we should embrace, what it is we are and come up with our own thing. I agree. I don't have the answer for you, it's just as far as Silicon goes, it is a way of communicating the startup dimension though for what we're doing here. So I get that part, but obviously when it comes to startups and innovation. It's a much broader landscape in terms of industries, and take us for example, or even Nextiva. It's not exactly descriptive of the nature of our businesses.
And Panch, you could probably talk to this because Silicon Valley, Silicon anything, came from the semiconductor industry, of which we were a part of at one time. Right. But it has shifted and changed and transformed so much that, I'd like to hear your feedback on that.
No, that's an excellent point, Elena. So if I were to you asked for a term that might encapsulate what we are doing here, I would call it the knowledge desert, because it all emanates from knowledge at the end of the day, because all facets of what we do, we are into several verticals of opportunity, and there are going to be only more verticals of opportunity as we advance. So for example, be it energy or biotech or infotech, be it aerospace and defense that we have been traditionally good at, in semiconductors, whatever that might be, we will do all of that and more. And therefore, to sort of term ourselves in a way that is more inclusive is, after all, a good thing. And so it also ties to the fact that it brings a strong connectivity to the university, which is a knowledge enterprise. And so how might the university play a big role in terms of helping advance all these ideas and companies and move them forward, and providing them the necessary raw talent also. So that's why I prefer the term knowledge desert, if you were to use a term at all to describe this.
Yeah, Dave.
I'd change that slightly. I'd go knowledge in the desert.
Knowledge in the desert is good. All fine.
The notion of silicon as a enabling technology was a 1980s notion, and something broader than that. But frankly, I think Phoenix has yet to brand itself in the minds of the rest of the world. And then being a city as large, a metropolitan area as large as it is, I think has meaning in its own right. And frankly, to have to come up with a tagline or something like that, if you can get people to understand that Phoenix is a multifaceted, dynamic, entrepreneurial, and all those dimensions, then there isn't another Phoenix. And so I'd say, go with what you have. It's a very distinct name. It has its own meaning in terms of revitalization and dynamism as the Phoenix rising, right? And I'd play off of that myself.
Yeah.
In fact, I would go broader than Phoenix, David. I think it's Arizona. I mean, Southern Arizona. I mean, you're from there, so you're probably, not necessarily, focusing on that just to be more inclusive. I would say that it is Arizona in general. I mean, we're a very vibrant community. Risk-taking kind of a thing is part of the DNA of the Wild West. So I think, where would you have this kind of a possibility that we can latch on to any innovative idea and help advance it, move it forward, be it Southern Arizona, Northern Arizona, or the metropolitan Phoenix area, Central Arizona. I think we can do amazing things with the raw talent that we have.
So let's talk a little bit about that diversity, and you mentioned, Dave. So what makes the Valley and Arizona in general the best choice for a new business or a new business venture, and why? I mean, what are those strengths that we have? We'll talk about weaknesses in a little bit, but let's talk a little bit about what is it that draws businesses and draws that entrepreneurial folk here. So what does that look like? Yeah.
Well, I'll be honest. I don't think that there's anything that is so distinctive from other regions that I could say, yeah, that's it or not. I mean, obviously we have generally speaking, a favorable climate. But I think the thing that I'm most taken, and I look at Phoenix at a distance. I'm up here quite a bit. And one of the things that's pretty striking for me when I look at the innovation is that it's increased. And I came from Boulder and Denver, Colorado, so a very vibrant economic entrepreneurial community. And what I see is the younger people staying, and why? Because they're already here. If you start a business, you're going to start a business typically with friends. You're going to start a business in an area you typically have been working in before. I mean, you don't just start a business without any domain experience, typically. Maybe you can, but that's not generally the ingredients for success. You're going to be doing it in an environment where people, the advisors and the people that you turn to, your mentors, are people that are in that community. You're not going to be lucky to get Guy Kawasaki to come down and be on your board. Maybe you will, but it's very unusual, right? So most of the people who are going to start businesses and be attracted back to this community came from this community. This is a large community. And a lot of people may have left to go on to Silicon Valley. I know one of your partners is a Arizona-based guy. And they come back. They come back because they know the environment. They know they know people. They have friends, family, etc. So I think that is a major attribute, because you can put yourself into a support network. And nothing is more important than having people to help you when you're starting out in a new venture.
Talk about that, Dehi, because clearly as a Silicon Valley techie, you saw value here, your partner saw value here because of his background. So tell us a little bit about what it was you saw You know, I know I've read a lot about the
Yeah.
company and the story and the blog that you guys did. So tell some of the folks here what those strengths were, or what you saw.
Sure. Yeah, I think we got a good panel here because we can provide our narrow view on this versus the broad landscape. But for us, you know, it was one was our economic reality, and two was you know, wanting to get outside of the bubble. So I think it's also important to recognize, you know, what also makes Phoenix valuable is how it's different from Silicon Valley, and you know, the fact that you don't have to go to Silicon Valley to start a successful company. You know, there's dozens of companies like ours showing that, and proving that, and we have to do it in our own way, right? There are differences here. You know, there's not as much investor capital here, but that can be a good thing. You know, for us, being in this almost survival mode, being here in Phoenix forced us down certain paths where, you know, we can't get too comfortable. We have to be very scrappy with how we build the business, and that was laying a very strong foundation for the business, and it continues to be something that we have to, you know, keep in mind as we build a business, because we want to build a business that, I mean, at least we aspire to outlast us, and we believe we're laying the right foundation for that right now because of the reality that we're in, because, you know, we're bootstrapped, we haven't taken on investor capital, and Phoenix is just not a great place to raise investor capital. If you want to go play that game, you should go to certain places. If you need certain types of talent, it's going to be much easier if you're in other areas, but we make the most of what we have here, and we embrace the good parts of Phoenix. And so, you know, an example is like when we were in Silicon Valley, one reason why we wanted to get away, and we wrote about this in our article, was we realized just your environment does influence you, and just being in that environment where you're walking down the street and people are being, you know, measuring each other. Their success is measured by how much money you've raised or what your perceived valuation is. And we knew while working in Silicon Valley that we wanted to try bootstrapping our company, and we didn't want to have that influence us, because we knew just naturally, just, you know, by nature, it would constantly be a tempting thing. But by removing ourselves completely from that, we were able to just have more autonomy to do things and try things our way, and that's been good for us. But, you know, like I said, our economic reality, yeah, it's just a lot cheaper to do business here, and especially when you're bootstrapping, cost of living personally does matter as well, and that's helped a lot. And also a big thing to consider is culture. We have a much stronger culture here because also employees are much more long-term minded. Because in Silicon Valley, also because of the environment, you have so many people chasing after liquidity, the short-term exit, and that's not the case here. People haven't been corrupted by that. I mean, that can be a good thing too, but here you just have employees who matter about the long game, who care about the long game. They're in it for the long term, and that's aligned with how we want to build the company. So, you know, that's good for us.
So, Elena, if I could add one dimension, which is in addition to this, is an excellent point, is the fact that the universities are ready to engage and be helpful. I mean, you said that, you know, we bring our biases. I want to bring that bias, which is a very important thing. Because when I talk to companies, when they come, either they are expanding here, or they are moving from some other part of the country or globe, for that matter. And then when there are people who are trying to make it here because they're a startup and they're trying to make it here, we always tell the companies, what do you want? Let us say that you, Intel, or a small startup, right, Nextiva, or a small startup, you know. So if you were to now come to us and say, you know, I want these kinds of things from the university, okay? I want raw talent, I want ideas, I want people who have tried things, I want entrepreneurialness in my employee base, whatever that is. You might have a set of desired requirements. And instead of waiting until the end for the ultimate product from the university to be interviewed and acquired, as good as it is, you could get engaged right from day one. You could get engaged in terms of the capstone projects that the students work on, internship that students can get. In fact, I will tell you, some of the students will come and work in your companies here as volunteers because they just want to get the experience. They want to get a different mindset also as they're sort of navigating through the university. So the responsiveness of the institutions to the companies and to want to make them successful and to build that kind of an environment here is very strong. And I'm not trying to contrast it to other parts of the country. I mean, you can figure this out yourself. Not all parts of the country where there are top-class research universities, are willing to engage at that level. Yeah. And so that's a huge part of ensuring the success of the companies here.
I mentioned, and I wanted you guys to all know, the blog that you guys did was in Thought Catalog, and I wanted to share with you one of the sentences in there that just really struck me. And now meeting you, now I know, why I thought that was so interesting. You say in the article that, quote, California began to feel like a strange nightmare from which we had woken up. Can you address that a little bit in terms of, I know you talked a little bit already, but was there something specific that you finally literally woke up one day and said, can't do this anymore?
Yeah, so JT and I were working at the same software startup together, and it was an awakening moment for us where we just realized we were playing this game, and we knew there could be a better way for us, at least for us, right? In terms of what kind of company we wanted to build, or what kind of company we wanted to work at. So that was the line of thought for what led to Tuft & Needle, and not just in terms of our product, but I mean, it provided the criteria for that. So one of the things was just in terms of the grinding work that we were doing there. We were working like 60, 80 hours a week, and then we started questioning ourselves, for what? It was motivated by the wrong incentives, which was our startup equity and the dream of an exit and those type of things, and less so on what really matters in life. Again, at least for us. So yeah, we put together our criteria for what we wanted to do, and one was bootstrapping, like I said earlier, and secondly was we realized there's so many smart people already working on software problems, high-tech problems. Why don't we take what we've learned now and try to apply it to something different that that's solving our own problem. So mattresses was a problem of our own, and that's how we approached it, and start a business that way. And we've always just approached the problems very pragmatically, iteratively. So even the business was a prototype. So we started by launching a simple landing page and sending some Google AdWords traffic to it. That's how we got started. But everything was an experiment, and even Phoenix has been an experiment in some sense, and we're doing that right now on Grand Avenue in downtown Phoenix. And how can we make an impact down there and help shape that area and give back to the community that way? And I think we're going to talk later about our campaigns. We can go into that later. But yeah, it was a realization, and it provides a contrast, right? In terms of like he was saying earlier, we had to define what was important for us. What are our values? And once we know that, it's clear the path that we have to take and to best optimize for that. And Phoenix for us has been a great environment and has definitely helped with our success as far as that goes.
Dave, are there particular companies that can thrive here and others that maybe can't? We seem very diverse now, much more so than we were 20 years ago. And I obviously real estate, everybody thinks of Phoenix and they think real estate. Can you approach that in a way that talks about the diverse nature of the types of businesses that we have here and that are coming here?
Good question. That wasn't the one that you...
No, I'm just joking.
Are there companies that could thrive here? I think that the companies that would thrive here are probably companies that are, wedded to the cores of what's happening in the knowledge economy of this community. And I think and there is quite a few things in this. The knowledge economy of this community is largely defined by Arizona State University and the University of Arizona down in the downtown Phoenix Medical Campus, and some of the other, the relationship that ASU has with Mayo, et cetera, in the biotech area. So I do think there's that, and Ponch is probably much better able to talk about that. But a couple points that I think that are just everybody has heard, but it bear to hear again, given what we're talking about. A undergraduate in engineering has about a 5 to 7 year half-life. In other words, about half that knowledge will not be applied. It will be superseded by something else. To the point today where you become a domain expert in something, you're probably, by the time you get to that point, when you truly have mastered the craft of a particular area, it's probably obsolete knowledge that you have. And just the notion that in the next 20 years, the 4 to 5 major technologies that are going to influence us are probably in the laboratories at universities right now or somewhere like that, have not yet even come out. We don't even know what they are. And the fact that people are going to have 4 or 5 careers in their lifetime now. So you throw all that together. And what that really, in my mind, means is that there has to be a good degree of flexibility. There has to be a good support network, because there'll be times when things are down, not just recession-wise, but in your own life where you're making transitions. And to be able to understand what are the next technologies that will be that 4 to 5 or those next, whatever that number, and not be as supportive in putting as much resources as I think we do into declining industry.
Panch, what might those 4 or 5 technologies be where we can thrive and develop those, and we're going to talk about workforce here in a minute, where we can develop that skilled workforce to approach those different technologies?
No, clearly, any companies that will prosper here would also need the ecosystem. And that's why I like what Nextiva has done in terms of putting the NextCon conference, because you want to be part of an ecosystem that you can be really prosperous in terms of what you want to do. That doesn't mean that there cannot be other kinds of companies that will also exist, but you pick those areas that you can be really a winner in. So I find that in the Arizona area, there is this feeling of wanting to solve real problems. Okay? It's not just core technology only, but how might you take the technologies and solve real problems? Let me give you an example. As a place, we can leverage ourselves in terms of energy, as one example, right? I mean, where would you do solar energy work than in Arizona? We are blessed with photons shooting at our surface at the maximum level of intensity than any other place on planet Earth. So naturally, that becomes a place that you want to have that ecosystem built, right? And so what we do at the university, therefore, as Dave was saying, is what we try to do is we tend to predict those things that we can be good at as a community, and then we build capacities in the institution around those areas. So energy is one that we have built a significant capacity in. In fact, you could argue that we have built it around even broader than energy, which is water, food, water, energy nexus, sustainability as a principle, because this is something that we, in the global stage, are going to increasingly need, okay, the food, water, energy nexus, and sustainability as a concept. So we are building the capacities around that. So there'll be a lot of companies that will therefore emerge from that as one example. The other thing that we are doing is to find differentiated, because everybody says biotech, or I'm doing this around the biomedicine area, whatever that is. We are trying to pick those niches where we can be really good at. Again, solution-oriented thinking. We are very, very good in terms of Alzheimer's work. I mean, Banner has got one of the best, topmost Alzheimer's Institute in the country. Eric Ryman is a tremendous leader there. Now, can we build around that, for example, kinds of things that we can propel ourselves into the future? So our Biodesign Institute and BioPhi in Tucson, for example, are all around how might we take inspirations from nature and how might we build new technologies and solutions for healthcare of the future. And healthcare of the future is not just about illness, it's also about wellness, increasingly about wellness rather than illness. Because if we take the illness paradigm, we are already hitting the limits of what we can do with investments. So if you want to bring the curve down in terms of investments, you have to focus on wellness in addition to illness. And so I find this presents some interesting opportunities in Arizona for us. Again, where can you focus on wellness with a possibility for us to do outdoor activities, pretty much, 300 days of the year or more, right? So which means that these are the kinds of things that you want to pick up and build around that as ecosystems. So at the universities, therefore, we are picking up these kinds of ideas, where we can be unique and differentiated nationally. And that's why we're able to win various research grants. For example, at ASU, we have quadrupled our research volume in the last 10 years. We are the fastest growing research university in the United States. All universities included, publics and privates. right? We have crossed the $500 million threshold, and University of Arizona is already at a $600 million plus university in terms of research. So what you have is a very vibrant research enterprise, and the reason is because we pick those problems where investments will happen by either federal agencies, foundations, or other philanthropy, because people believe that this is where we can do it and be successful because of the unique differentiating factors. So now you build ecosystems, therefore industrial ecosystems around that as you build into the future. Now you've got something really significant. That doesn't mean, as I said when I started off this comment, that doesn't mean that you will not have other companies that will surround that. That doesn't mean that we won't have that. We will have those too, but we have to focus around certain themes that we can be really, really good at and nationally well known. I just came back from Austin yesterday. I spent a couple of days there. I mean, if you look at Austin, I've been there 20, 30 years ago, and to where it is today, they have chosen those kinds of approaches that has built Austin, not worrying about Silicon Valley only, but what can we do in the South. And so we, I think, have tremendous opportunities in the future to build an amazing ecosystem in the Southwest, because as to the point that was made earlier, we have a lower cost of living, we have got fantastic schools. People already all the time say, but where are the schools? I mean, the basic schools were in the top 10 schools in the country. 3 of them were basic schools in Arizona. I mean, we need to pay attention, and we don't do a good enough job of branding. And so that's what I do. Whenever I go out, I talk up what we have here. And so I encourage all of you to do that, because that's part of building the future for ourselves. So anything that we can do at ASU to help you be successful, believe me, I'm your concierge. Wherever I go, I tell people, I'm your concierge at the university. Come to me. ASU is a large place. I know you can get lost if you go to the engineering school or business school or this school. I'm your concierge. Come to me, and I will help you navigate the system. I will help you get what you want so that we can be successful as a community.
So let's talk a little bit about what I've heard has been a weakness of the state, and I think the two of you probably can best address that. And then Dehi, we'll have you talk a little bit about the workforce and where you're finding people and all of that. But that seems to be a little bit of a sticking point with some of the newer companies that have come here. That the workforce, finding the skilled talent and keeping the university graduates here has been problematic. So is that what you're hearing as well, and what are we doing about it?
Does anyone take it before I do it?
I'll start,
Okay.
sure.
Go ahead.
First off, the responsibility of an education is primarily the consumer. And the consumer of education, being a student or undergraduate, graduate student, has to understand the environment in which they are going to be faced in the future. And if they think that getting a degree and having a credential is going to be satisfactory in the future, they're only kidding themselves. So the first element of that, and at schools like ASU, one of the schools that is redefining itself and beginning to turn the business model of education upside down. And that's the only way universities are going to be able to survive in the future. And what does that mean? That means continuous learning in real time, online learning, augmented learning, environments in which the sage on the stage also works with an online environment, all those hybrids, and looking at credentials merely by themselves won't cut it. It's capabilities and capacity. And so really the full responsibility lies with the consumer of education. A smart consumer of education can do extremely well in the environment of Arizona and Arizona State, and Northern Arizona for that matter. But to say that it's up to the responsibility for us to tether our graduates in a particular community, that doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't. We can't. What we can do is we can provide that kind of environment, that kind of education, the flexibility, and again, the two universities that I'm most familiar with, ourselves and Arizona State, are doing all those things. But we need to have, I think, as educated a consumer coming in as we possibly can, realizing that the issues like there's going to be 3-4 different careers they're going to have in their lifetime, that the half-life of their domain knowledge, and all those kind of things. They have to have a perspective of continual learning, and we have to have the experiences, whether it be in the classroom or out, that get them at ease with that kind of learning, because it's totally different than what their parents went and what I went through as a student.
Good point, Dave. So, Elena, what I would add to that is this: people will go to where the opportunities are. Let's not be kidding, okay? So, the more the opportunities that we create for students here, the more they are going to stay here. We have changed that up. We have a lot more people wanting to stay in the valley than in the past. And that's only going to increase with the kinds of discussions that we are having right now with the development of the ecosystem, enriched ecosystems. So it is going to happen. We take this as a responsibility seriously as institutions. What we're saying is, for people to develop the loyalty to the place or loyalty to a particular company, it's not that you recruit them, and I made this point earlier, recruit them at the end of the graduation, because then they have the offer from a company in Austin or Silicon Valley or Boston and Phoenix, and then they will choose whatever makes sense to them. But instead, if you now have students in internships and other kinds of engagements with the companies through their program, guess what has happened? The company knows the student knows the company. The chances that they will be retained here are much higher because their starting point is very different than what they would have in Austin or Boston or the Silicon Valley. Then they will want to stay here, right? Because they don't have a learning curve. They don't have to prove themselves anywhere. They have already done that as part of their academic experience here at the universities. So we need to do more of that, and so we take that responsibility very, very seriously, and we want to do that more for all of your companies to be able to get the right talent and the talent at scale. Let's take our engineering school. 17,000 students in our engineering school. Where can you find an engineering school, a place which has that much of talent that is made available to you at scale for you to be successful? As one example, again, business school, large school, same is true in Tucson. Where can you get this quality of talent at scale that you can scale your operations and grow all these companies? I'm telling you, I don't think places like which we have talked about, the places, are able to do that at scale as we are able to do that because we are not resistant to scale, number one. Number two, what we are doing in a conscious way is providing opportunities to everybody who is talented that is coming from high schools. We are not saying if you are not an A student in high school, too bad, you don't have a chance for higher education. We don't do that here. We say that if you are talented, if you are willing to put your hard work and your ideas to work, then you have a university that will give you the chance. Most universities across the nation are defining themselves, by their exclusivity. We define ourselves by our inclusivity. And I'm telling you, you're going to have such a diverse workforce. So this goes back even to the election results of the last week. Let's not kid ourselves. We need to educate everybody and anybody and provide the skills that they need to be successful in what they do. That's our responsibility as a community, and we take that responsibility as a university very seriously.
Dehi, can you talk about your experiences with finding employees on sort of a different level? Obviously, what have been your challenges? What have been the things that you've found that have been refreshing, maybe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So first of all, recruiting has been great locally, just in general. Especially just tapping into the big schools here, ASU, NAU, U of A, and there are students who want to stay here. They do leave unless they find an opportunity here. So we're grateful to be able to provide that opportunity for students who are coming out of school, or we've had cases where they've left and gone to the bigger cities or other cities, and they've wanted to find the opportunity to come back home. So we've seen that happen as well. So that's great. I think without a doubt, it's been, I think for all companies like us, we're like a tech-enabled company, but any kind of technology-related company, it's a challenge finding engineers and designers, and that's been the case for us. It's easy to complain about it, but we've actually taken a couple different efforts to try to tackle that problem. One is actually trying to recruit people from other states and bringing them here, and that's been working for us. And a big part of that is also branding, building the brand equity in Phoenix, right? So doing our part, and how can we sell Phoenix to them to make it.
Talk about your campaign, because it kind of leads into that whole thing.
Yeah. So actually, how that campaign started was, so I don't know how many people have seen it, but we put up billboards around town for "We Believe in Phoenix," and it wasn't to our company website. It was to phxbuilt.com, and we also piggybacked off of a yes Phoenix hashtag, just to make it more about the community. And the catalyst for that was, we've been building this company here for, at that time, like 3 years, and people just assumed we weren't based here. They thought, oh, you have an office here or you have a store here, but you must be from the Bay Area or wherever. And we just it was a continuous pattern that we saw, so we just saw it as an opportunity for ourselves to share our story and our experiences, to be able to be proud of where we're headquartered, where we put down our roots, and bring awareness around that. I mean, we've been pretty heads down as a company, but we saw it as an opportunity for us to be able to contribute back to the community and build that brand equity for Phoenix, so that, again, we can keep students here, they know about companies like us, and attract talent from other states. So there's a couple different approaches to that.
Well, and let's talk a little bit, companies like yours. We have a lot of companies here that people may not realize. Infusionsoft, Carvana, LifeLock, WebPT, Parchment, PureChat, Gift Card Zen. I mean, we have a lot of companies here that are new and unique and doing some really cool things. They're, for the most part, all tech-based companies, and they landed here rather than Austin, rather than the Silicon Valley, rather than Boston. Why do you think that is? I mean, I know that you've talked already about all of the reasons that you came here. Do you think those are the same reasons, or do you think they all maybe have a little bit of a different reason? Or is it the ecosystem that Panch talked about that is beginning, the word is beginning to get out about what we have here?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely the ecosystem is a big part of that, where people are more people are believing it can be done here instead of going the typical path, to go to Silicon Valley and raise venture capital and do that. But the founders we talked to, there are a variety of reasons. I think for the most part, everyone is from here. I mean, JT and I are not, but everyone's from here, and they want to be able to tap into their support communities and be able to give back to the local community here.
Yeah. So you brought up Infusionsoft and Carvana. Maybe I can tell you 2 stories. So Infusionsoft, about 5 years ago, I got a call from one of the state legislators, said, this company, Infusionsoft, has got the next level of investment, and the investors are telling them that they may not be able to find talent at scale here, and maybe they have to move to the Bay Area. I said, what the hell? What are they talking about? So I said, I want to have lunch with the co-founders, Mark Chelsea and Kate Mask. I said, I want to have lunch with them tomorrow. So I had lunch with them, and I asked them, imagine, Clayton and Mark, that you build your university called the Infusionsoft University. That's ASU for you. And I can say that with a straight face to Infusionsoft and Intel and Carvana and others, because I have 17,000 students or 72,000 students to offer. Okay? We can be your university. Now tell me what all you need, and I can tell you all the things that we are doing, and I will connect you. And the earlier point about being concierge, I'll be the single point of contact. And sure enough, the rest is history. You can talk to them and find out how successful they have been here in the Valley. And I'm not claiming credit for this by any means. What I'm saying is that we need to be proactive. Carvana story. I was sitting, I was flying from Washington, D.C., and I never stopped talking to people around me. So every opportunity, so you're going to, so beware. So if you're getting a seat next to me, just change your seat. So I started talking to my neighbor, who happens to be a co-founder of Carvana. We're having this fantastic conversation. He's showing me this Carvana, see what Carvana is, and so on. I'm like blown away. 3 Stanford co-founders, right? And then I talked to this person, and then I said, now let's, same pitch. How can ASU be useful? He said, oh, it's interesting that you tell me that because that's exactly what I wanted to see what we could do with ASU. So we are, let's talk about it. So I invited the entire leadership team to come and had 2 conversations with them already. This is about 2-3 months ago. 2 conversations with them already in terms of whatever we can do for you and connecting up with the science, the research that will take them to the next level, the talent pool that they need, and identify talent pool for them. They said, I want people in this area, that area, this area. Identify talent pool for them so they can get connected right away. Okay? So we have to do this. We have to do this. That's the only way we can ensure the success of our companies. So I'm very proud of Dehi, for example. What he's saying today is it makes us proud to have companies like that who are committed to our region, and we have to therefore do in return everything that we do to help them to be successful. And believe me, we will be responding and ready. So I'm going to take the word thrive, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, we are a transformative community. We are a very high-spirited community. We are a responsive community. We are an innovative community, okay? And we are a vibrant community. And all of this is what the environment is, and that's what Thrive stands for.
Yeah.
I'll just second that. That's a really good point. Another strong factor for succeeding here in the area is everyone wants to see you thrive, right? So we've had a lot of support from government, other business leaders, the universities, because there's not that too much noise. So when they see companies succeeding, they want to help you as much as you can. So that's been a really good tailwind for us. I'll definitely add to that.
Excellent. Yeah, Dave.
So I want to play off one of Ponch's points. And yes, he's evangelical for ASU, and there's a good reason for it. And I think that the key for any of you folks that want to engage, whether it be at ASU or U of A, NAU, or wherever you go to the top. Go to someone like him. Come to me.
Correct.
Because what we do is we put together red teams. We say, try to understand the nature of the problem. Okay, we need somebody from optics. We need somebody from academic affairs because they want an internship. We need somebody from online part of the business school. And that's what we're able to do. And typically what people will do, well, first, they won't want to they won't want to go to a high enough level. Do it. Call us up, number one. Whether it be myself or other vice presidents at the university, everybody does want to help. The problem with the universities is they're very open institutions. Every door is open. You just don't know which ones to go through. And typically the way universities are set up, they're relatively siloed, departments and majors and disciplines, and the problems you have are multifaceted. They're interdisciplinary. They're problems that are changing beyond what somebody was talking about yesterday. So you have to go to be aggressive, go in, find people, and they will help, and they will get you to the right people. I would, unless you have a personal relationship with maybe with a professor or something like that, which is great. If you can do that, you can get and work with them, come to their class, get to meet their students, et cetera. But don't hold back from going to a level of somebody whose job it is to help you.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
That's, we're there for that reason.
Correct.
Great. So I'm not entirely sure how much time we have left, but I do want to give everybody in the audience a chance to ask a few questions. So let's do that right now, and we can always go back to, I have pages of questions here, but let's give you guys an opportunity. If you have any questions for our panelists, just raise your hand. There's a microphone, I think, in the middle, and there is somebody over there ready to ask. So,
Testing? Oh.
yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
still forming my question. Give me a second. If anyone else has another question.
I think there's a microphone over here, too.
But I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to address Tufton Needle. Are you guys manufacturing here or in California? And if so, do you have plans to manufacture here?
Are you manufacturing?
Yeah, so we started manufacturing. We started the business by manufacturing in California. Now we have 5 different nodes around the country. We do plan to bring manufacturing here in Arizona when the time makes sense. We've had, just as a business, we've had even our factory partners outgrow their own operations through our business multiple times. So when the time makes sense, we will further vertically integrate. And we're waiting for the right time, which could be very soon.
Thank you. Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Yamasaki. I am from the university that everyone keeps forgetting, Northern Arizona University. I'm just joking. Go Lumberjacks. Well, essentially, my question is, this goes to you, the Executive VP of ASU. So you were referring back to, you know, these 17,000 engineers and all these, this talent that ASU brings. How do you scale that? Because I'll give you kind of like my own personal story. I was going to go to ASU. I was thinking, all right, I can make something of myself. ASU is great, and I'm a business management major. But I said, you know what? I'm going to go to NAU because I want to become a mountain. It's a smaller community. It's a place that I can be highly recognized if I be very successful. So I thought on the entrepreneurial mindset of like, well, again, it's similar to Phoenix, how Phoenix is we're not recognized as your Silicon Valley. So I thought of that same way of when I went to NAU, and I've been successful for myself. Now, my real question is, how do you scale that if there's so much talent at ASU? There's a lot of negative connotations about it being a party school. I do think it's a great school. I'm thinking about getting my MBA there, but what do you say, how do you scale that, essentially? How do you scale all that talent? Because there's so many students, and how do you continue to motivate them to really be successful and help Phoenix economy thrive?
So, excellent question. So, you know, you do it in multiple ways. First of all, when you scale, you want to scale with quality. And by quality, I mean you want to make sure that you are training them in those areas that they are excited in to be making a career out of, okay? And that's why engagement with the community, and particularly industry and companies, is very valuable, because students resonate with that kind of a strategic partnership that will help them express their talent already as they are in the university. So it's very important that is why we are focusing intensely on the strategic partnership realm, whether it is with cities, whether it is corporates, whether it is clinical partners like Mayo or Banner or whatever. We want to be there out in the community so that we are listening to them, listening to their needs, and packaging our products, in this case students, and our ideas in a manner that is responsive to the needs of the community, rather than living in these ivory towers and just generating people and say, do with them whatever you want.
Thank you for that.
Okay, I think we actually have time for one more question, but I'm sure that our panelists will stick around afterwards and you can ask them. Go ahead.
My name's Ani. I'm a freshman at ASU, and Dr. Font, thank you for mentioning BASIS because that's where I graduated. So my question is for Dehi, actually. Do you do internships?
You do.
Currently, no. We want to be able to support the internship program. I think a lot of companies, including ourselves, make mistakes. We have made a mistake in the past where we weren't able to fully support it as much as we would want to. We do plan to reintroduce it, but we want to make sure we're able to give it our full attention before we do it. So if you submit an application, I'm sure we'll be able to get back to you when that's ready.
All right, thank you.
Okay, one more.
Hi, oh gosh, very loud, sorry. Danielle Cadena, I'm here with a local Fortune 500 company, Insight. We're out of Tempe, Arizona. I'm a proud ASU alum, so go Devils.
Go Devils.
Mr. U of A, you told me to get aggressive, so I'm getting aggressive here. My question, may I leave my business card on this yellow little thing up here? We are looking for internship opportunities for students, higher job placement, and really want to get closer tied with the universities and how to better do that and partner. So if I may, would love to connect, whether it's you or someone, a colleague that can help have a mutually beneficial relationship here.
Absolutely.
Would appreciate it.
Very simple. Sure. My email is PANCH, not punch, but panch, PANCH @asu.edu. I welcome your emails. And you can be rest assured that I will respond to your emails. Yeah.
Great, so we made a
You
connection.
can just simply Google David Allen, University of Arizona, you'll get a hold of it.
That's good.
So this is better than Match.com, because we made a couple of connections already. But we are out of time, and I do want to thank our panelists very much for all of your insight and all of your information that you shared with us today. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.